Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to the Baal Shalom's Matan Torah with commentary by Rebbe Avraham Mordechai Gottlieb. I'll be referring to, as always, as the Rebbe Shlita. We're on page 106 towards the bottom, section 18. We're in the essay of Ha'arvut, the mutual guarantee, which is the continuation of Matan Torah. And the header reads, to clarify what the mutual guarantee is, the mutual guarantee is like the situation of two people on a boat. The Baal HaSulam begins. Therefore, the Tana, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the master of the Zohar, described the mutual guarantee as similar to the situation of two people on a boat. One of them began to drill a hole underneath himself, and his friend asked, "Why are you drilling?" He answered, "What difference does it make to you? I'm drilling under myself, not under you." His friend replied, "Fool, we will die together in the boat." From Midrash Rabbah, Vayikra, chapter 4. This is similar to what we've been saying. Those who throw off the yoke of the mutual guarantee are sinking in self-love, and by their actions they build an iron fence that prevents the Torah observant from even beginning to properly keep the Torah and mitzvot according to the standard of v'ahavta l'reach kamocha, and love your fellow as yourself, which is the ladder of attaining devekut, cleaving to God, as previously mentioned in section 6. How correct were the words in the parable when he said, "Fool, we will die together in the boat." In the introduction to Talmud Sefirot, the Baal Sulam also uses similar language to an iron fence. Perhaps it's the same exact words. I've also seen it translated as iron wall. I think it's the same idea. There he says that there is an iron wall between the ultra-Orthodox, the religious community, and the true wisdom, the Chochmat HaEmet, the Kabbalah. And he says it's this particular center point of this iron wall that's not letting the Jewish people, at least the ones who are seemingly observant, connect to the innermost aspect of the Torah, and thus that is what is causing our extended exile, our galut. So it's interesting to entertain the vicious cycle we have here with the language of, by their actions they build an iron fence that prevents the Torah observant from even beginning to properly keep the Torah mitzvot according to the standard of, and love your fellow as yourself. Meaning, if one is not exposed, involved in, or have anything in their system of Torah learning or their life of Torah and mitzvot with these inner matters, with the aspects of pnimius, the matters of the soul, the matters of loving the other, and the like, then there's no chance, absolutely no chance to progress and to refine oneself in this generation. Now I quote Rabbi Yitzchak Breidowitz Shlita, the Kilis Rav of Or Sameach, who said on the Jewish Learning Institute recently, it's a popular YouTube page with lots of Torah, and he said there in a video called "What is Kabbalah?" if I'm not mistaken, and he said Bubby and Zaidi, Grandma and Grandpa, didn't necessarily need it. Their generation was more refined. But already in our generation, a generation of great decadence and coarseness and ego, to combat the great darkness, we need a great light. The Baal Sulam has, in essence, repeatedly said the same exact words, and that's the generation we're in now. So to contemplate that if someone is not connected to the matters that expose them to even the ideas of desiring, not even to do acts of giving, at least to desire to be able to do acts of giving, or desiring to do the acts of giving, so on and so forth, then by definition they're ensconced in self-love. What else could they be doing? They could imagine that they're giving, but really it's giving in order to receive. It's the stage of development, the stage of education, as we've spoken about, in contrast to the stage that we're born in, which is receiving to receive. But to be truly giving, wow, I can only imagine, because I don't think I've ever gotten there. It takes a lot of time. A lot of refinement, a lot of learning, a lot of practice, a lot of nullifying oneself, so on and so forth. And if we're not doing it, then by definition, we're building an iron fence around ourselves, and therefore around the whole of Klal Yisrael and the whole of the world, because we are taught that we are, in essence, the nucleus of the world. We are the soul of the world. So the Baal Shem says in the introduction to the Zohar, towards the end of the Sefer, the end of the book, he says, because Klal Yisrael is not focusing on the innermost aspect of the Torah, being the Kabbalah, therefore the world also looks at the innermost aspect of the world, which is Klal Yisrael, as something not important. Because we treat Kabbalah as something superfluous, extra, not important, so too the world treats us as if we are superfluous, extra, and not important. Because everything we do is reflected in the world. We can look in the world and point our finger and judge, but really we're pointing the finger at ourselves. We need to, at least, because the Rebbe Zatzal says that why is the whole world made for you? On one side, we can say that we are all pieces of Adam Harishon. The world was made for Adam. So the world was made for me, because I'm a piece of him. True. At the same time, the world was made for me because every single person I see outside of myself is telling something about me. If I see a lacking, if I see an iniquity, whatever I'm noticing in others is actually the Creator revealing in my consciousness something that I'm able to notice about myself and to hopefully ask for help in order to fix it. So God willing, we can continue to be exposed to such matters in hopes that it'll be like the water dripping in the rock in the story of Rabbi Akiva, the greatest of his generation, someone who had 24,000 students to him, one of them being Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, master of the Zohar. There's a famous story in his journey towards coming back to his roots, as he was a Baal Tshuva, that he saw the water falling on the rock and slowly but surely eroding it. Because he questioned himself, already being 40 years old, who am I to come to Torah Mitzvot? Who am I to learn? It's never too late. Slowly but surely, we become refined. So we need to be exposed to this type of water. The light in the Torah is the same across the Torah. It's all the same ore, because the light is unchanging. It's just different vessels, different garments, different manifestations. And the light of the Torah is all the same, except for the fact that different levels of Torah have different levels of lumens, so to speak, different level of brightness, different potency. And this generation absolutely, undiplomatically needs the potency of the inner aspects of the Torah, or else we will not be able to correct ourselves whatsoever. The Rabbi Shlita says on the comment of, "Fool, we will die together in the boat," as the man responds to the person who digs a hole under himself. The principle that those who act out of self-love spoil the society is true not only for an ideal society that has accepted a mutual guarantee, but in any society. If someone acts out of self-love, it will always project a message of indulgence, and it will strengthen to a certain degree the character of self-love in the society. Thus, if you act out of self-love, you not only cause damage to yourself, but also to others. We're all in the same boat. Or the notion that I said in the prior class that we're all pieces of the puzzle. You change one piece of the puzzle, you change the whole puzzle. So on and so forth. This contradicts the entire foundation of Western culture, which asserts that a person can do whatever he or she wants as long as it doesn't bother or harm anyone else. The most abominable affairs are permitted on condition that they don't hurt another person. According to Judaism, however, this is not acceptable at all. For since all of Israel are guarantors for one another, when someone acts to fulfill his or her lust without any explicit harm to others, he or she actually causes tremendous harm by transmitting a message of self-love that spoils the whole world. Or in modern terms, or more modern, more new age terms, he sends frequencies and negative energy into the world. Bad vibes, man. It's all talking about the same thing. There's a lot of truth in the wisdom of the world, and it all is rooted in the ultimate wisdom of truth, as we are learning about here. Furthermore, according to the inner meaning of the Torah, the matter is even more severe, even without dealing with what are considered abominations. But even just by your sitting alone and eating an innocent breakfast, when it's done out of self-love, one is thereby tipped the scale for the whole world to the side of demerit. That should instill a sense of yirat, a sense of fear and awe that every single thing we do, to the most minutia of detail, affects the entire reality from top to bottom, whether for the good or for the bad. Perhaps there's something in between, but generally speaking, it's either giving or receiving. And perhaps something neutral kind of falls into the receiving category, I would presume. I don't know 100%, I admit. So if one is eating and they have no consciousness of the Creator, they're not giving thanks for the ability to have bought the food, the taste buds that they've been bestowed by the Creator to enjoy the food, the ability to digest and therefore be strengthened by the food and the like. If there's no exposure and consciousness to higher matters, even while doing the most simple things like eating and drinking, then one is doing that in order to receive for himself alone, and therefore tips the whole world to the side of demerit. Very difficult. But we're all one consciousness and we're all connected. So it's of the utmost importance that we do our best, slowly but surely. Western society, like all societies, assuming it has no connection to Torah and mitzvot, which practically speaking it doesn't, is doomed to be destroyed, says the Baal Sulam and other essays. Anything that's not connected to the truth, to the anchor of reality, to the purpose of creation, meaning to reach the similarity of form, to reach the Veikut, which is done through Torah and mitzvah, which is given to us in order that we refine ourselves and bring merit upon ourselves, being the greatest merit of refining ourselves and coming closer to the Creator. We're doomed otherwise. And by we, I mean any society that's not connected to Torah and mitzvah, which relatively speaking is most of the world. It's bitter to say that, even the Holy Land, even Klal Yisrael, the state of Israel, is not in essence and in truth a Torah state. Far from it. There's aspects of it. Thank God, there's still many things traditionally and even in law in terms of marriage and the like. But there's no guarantee, despite the miracle of us coming back to the Holy Land after 2,000 years and literally fulfilling prophecy, that we're going to stay here. If we don't fulfill our purpose, if we're not doing our job, if we don't connect to the inner matters of the Torah and spread it to each other and connect to each other in deeper ways, then there's no guarantee that we won't be kicked out again and again and again, says the Baal Sulam and other essays. But perhaps the bittersweet truth is that it has to collapse. Perhaps, and I'm not saying Israel particularly, but just society, which is a most bitter idea to contemplate. But you can't build something new on a corrupt foundation. That's a basic principle that we see in physical reality for those who have any connection to building or construction. Not that I do. I used to build Legos as a kid, and I know from that, simply enough, that A weak foundation, a corrupt foundation, can't stand. So under the notion that by definition, the world is not connected to Torah mitzvot, and therefore is ensconced within themselves and has an iron wall around them because of not being exposed to the healing waters that is the refinement of the Torah and its mitzvot, then there is such an idea of the New World Order. Nothing conspiracy-like. I'm not talking about Illuminati and black governments and all these things. Just the notion that it could be the Creator's will, also based on prophecy, that there has to be some major happenings and wars and suffering and the like in order to build within us the desire to come closer to Him. It says in the Gemara that if we don't do tshuva, if we don't realign and call to Him to return to our innermost nature of our soul, to be connected to Him, meaning to be similar to Him in giving and loving, if we don't do tshuva, then He will employ a wicked king that's worse than Haman of the story of Esther, Megillah Esther, a king more wicked than Haman, to force us to tshuva. So one way or another, thank God, we're going to get there. The question is, how much of the work do we want to do ourselves? And how much do we just want to take the hit and come back? So in essence, the notion of the New World Order is the new world of the Torah, which is the old Torah, the Torah of giving and loving, the Torah of the hidden, the inner aspects of the Torah. And the New World Order, in essence, is a society that crumbles its will to receive because it can't last and can't stand, and it has to be rebuilt with giving and loving. In theory, yes, the best case scenario is that that wouldn't have to happen, but as we see the world today, we are in a state of dinim, we're in a state of judgments. We're not doing the best job, admittingly. So perhaps that is the way that it'll go. Last week was Parshas Noach. As we enter such states and such troubling and challenging times, with Corona, for example, and the like, and all that that entails, all we need is emunah. And not the emunah of saying, I believe in God. No, the emunah above das, the emunah above our logic, meaning the situation looks terrible. I have to leave my job, I have to lose my job, God forbid, such and such, who knows? Lots of craziness going on. And despite everything to say, not only is it for the best, it is the best. Because His desire is to give goodness to creation, and that's all that's ever going on. That's something godly. That's something above nature. That's something that connects us, the Creator, to the highest levels. So the Baal Shalom finishes this section. Next page, 108 at the top. Therefore, according to the Torah, there is no such thing as individual liberty, as defined in Western society. For the Creator does not allow individual liberty. Rather, all of one's deeds are written in the book. Our deeds affect ourselves and influence the society. And we will have to give an accounting for every matter. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I think it's a poetic thing to say that individual liberty is only to Him. The Creator is the only one with true individual liberty. We, being at His whim, as He's beating our heart and breathing our lungs, have no individual liberty. That's a separate matter in terms of our life and being enlivened by Him and His chesed and His goodness to give us such a beautiful life where we can connect to Him. Individual liberty here is speaking on something different in terms of society. And as we see here, because we're all interconnected as one soul, and we live in a spiritually integral society and system, whether we see it or feel it or believe it, Thus, there's no such thing as individual liberty. There's a mutual guarantee. We are all guarantors for each other. We're all interconnected. There's no running from it, as much as we might like to and want to. And this is something good to meditate on, as it may help arouse a desire to further nullify ourselves before the other and before the Creator. Because when we have our own desires, the ideal thing to do is to go against the desire and to climb and to rise above the selfishness and come to the states of loving. Next class is section 19. We'll be talking about, although the guarantee initially includes only the nation of Israel, ultimately in each individual in the world is responsible for the whole world. All people, we are all Tselem Elokim. We are all made in the image of the Creator. We're all in it together. It's not just the Jewish people. And I'd love to see sources for those that believe that to be the case, but there's plenty of prophecies that explicitly say how the whole world will come to know Him and will come to acknowledge Him and will bow to Him and will serve Him. God willing, besimcha, and happiness and joy. I'm wishing everyone a most wonderful day, most wonderful week. All the best. Until next time. I'll check in case there's comments real quick. Not that anyone's watching at 4 a.m. in Chicago. Tov. Kol Tuv.